Here's something that should bother you. There's a powder that has been killing insects since before humans even existed. It works on ants, fleas, bedbugs, cockroaches, ticks, beetles, earwigs, slugs, mites, and over 100 other pests. But here's the disturbing part. Insects can never become resistant to it, not because it's poisonous, because of the way it kills them. It's registered by the EPA, it's used in organic farming, food-grade versions are even safe enough for humans to consume and cheap enough to cost about $4 a bag. Meanwhile, the pest control industry in the United States generates $16 billion every year in revenue, while most homeowners have never even heard of this stuff. That's not a coincidence. That should raise a question. What exactly is this powder, and why does it work where chemical pesticides fail? To understand this powder, you have to go back about 30 million years to the bottom of ancient lakes and oceans. There, countless microscopic single-celled algae called diatoms, each one wrapped in a shell made of silica, which is basically natural glass. For millions of years they lived, died, and their glass-like shells piled up in layers thousands of feet deep. Eventually, the pressure turned the shells into rock, and their remains built up into this strange powder that still destroys insects today. Today, that rock is mined, crushed into a fine white powder, and that powder is called diatomaceous earth. Now here's where it gets interesting. To your eye and to your touch, diatomaceous earth feels nothing more than a soft, chalky powder, completely harmless. But zoom in to the scale of an insect and the picture changes completely. Under a microscope, each particle of diatomaceous earth is a jagged, fossilized fragment of glass. To an insect, this isn't powder, it's thousands of microscopic shards of glass, each one capable of slicing through the waxy protective layer as they crawl through it. Those sharp particles damage the waxy outer layer that keeps moisture trapped inside their bodies. And here's the critical part. Once that protective layer is gone, they cannot survive. They slowly dry out. They don't get poisoned. They don't get paralyzed. They dehydrate. Diatomaceous earth pulls oils and fats from the insect's outer shell and damages the layer that keeps moisture in. Its microscopic sharp edges speed up the damage until the insect slowly dries out and dies. And that's why insects can't adapt to it. This powder doesn't attack their biology like normal pesticides do. It physically destroys them. Chemical insecticides target specific systems inside the insect's body, and over time, insects evolve resistance to those chemicals, but insects can't evolve around a razor blade. Diatomaceous earth tears through the insect's outer layer. It kills by physical damage, not poison. And that matters because insects can build resistance to chemical pesticides over time, but they can't adapt to this. You cannot evolve around a razor blade. The physics don't negotiate. So how fast does it actually work, and on which insects? Usually, the softer the insect, the faster it works. Soft-bodied insects like aphids and caterpillars can die within 12 to 24 hours. Fleas and bedbugs often take 24 to 72 hours. Roaches and beetles, due to their larger size and tougher outer shells, can take anywhere from 3 to 7 days. It's not instant, but it's extremely hard for insects to survive permanently. A treated surface stays lethal to insects as long as the powder stays dry. That could mean weeks or even months, and in places like wall cavities or under floors where moisture rarely reaches, it can keep working for a long time. You apply it once, and it stays active without evaporating or losing its physical effect. As long as it stays dry and undisturbed, it keeps doing the job. This $4 bag handles the kind of pest problems people usually pay exterminators to get rid of: ants, cockroaches, fleas, bedbugs, silverfish, earwigs, beetles, spider mites in gardens, ticks in the yard, slugs on vegetable beds, fungus gnats in potted plants, and stored product pests in pantry shelves.
But the wild part is it works on all of them for the exact same reason. This is not just a home trick people repeat online. There's real research behind this. A 2015 study cited in multiple pest management reviews demonstrated a significant reduction in Argentine ant activity following DE application. Research published in multiple peer-reviewed entomology journals confirms effectiveness against bedbugs, including strains that have developed resistance to chemical treatments, the very strains that are making the pest control industry's chemical solutions progressively less effective in urban environments across North America. Now, here's the question nobody in the industry wants you to ask. If this exists, if it's EPA registered, used by organic farmers, and if it has 100 years of documentation behind it, then why does a standard pest control contract cost between $400 and $1,200 a year per household? The average American homeowner spends $300 to $550 a year on pest control services, according to Home Advisor market data. So if this powder works so well, why doesn't the pest control industry just hand it to you and walk away? You already know the answer. If a $4 bag can permanently solve what people are paying $400 a year to manage, that's not just a bad business model, that's a business ending. The chemical treadmill is the real product, because the pest control industry doesn't actually make money by solving the problem permanently. It makes money by keeping the problem alive. You get treated, the bugs disappear, a few weeks later they're back, so you pay again. That cycle is the business model. The whole system works best when the problem never fully goes away. But Diatomaceous Earth breaks the cycle completely. No chemicals, no subscriptions, it's just a fine powder made from fossilized algae, and once it's placed correctly, it keeps working day and night. Every insect with an exoskeleton that crawls across it slowly dies. It doesn't expire, it doesn't stop working, it just waits. Here's exactly how to use it and the mistakes that make it fail. First, make sure it's food grade. That part really matters. Some forms of diatomaceous earth are made for industrial use, like pool filters. That stuff is heat-treated, chemically changed, and it's unsafe to breathe around your home. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is the one you want for pest control. And the good part is it's easy to find. You can get it on Amazon, at garden centers, farm supply stores, and even some hardware stores now. Harris is one of the most common brands, and it's cheap. A small 4-pound bag is usually about $4 to $8, and a 50-pound bag is still only about $20 to $30. Application. Here's the part most people get wrong. More DE does not work better. Think thin. A light, barely visible dusting works better than a heavy layer. In fact, heavy piles make insects avoid them completely. You want a thin layer in the places they already travel, along baseboards, under appliances, inside cabinet hinges, around door frames, inside cracks and other hidden edges. Outside, the same idea applies, along fence lines, around the base of garden beds, or around animal enclosures. The goal isn't to trap them, it's to make them walk through it without noticing. For outdoor use, apply it after morning dew dries and before rain, and instead of dumping it by hand, use a cheap squeeze bottle or powder duster. That gets the dust deep into cracks and hidden spaces where your hand can't. Bed bugs are a different story, so this is one place where you need to be careful and patient. For bed bugs specifically, apply in a thin layer under the mattress, around the bed frame joints, inside the bed base, and along the baseboard of the bedroom. Leave it undisturbed. The timeline is slower than a chemical fogger, but the bugs cannot develop resistance to it, which is why it's increasingly recommended by pest management professionals for strains that have stopped responding to chemical treatment. But the most surprising use might be food storage. Food-grade DE can be mixed directly into stored grain at a rate of roughly 1 cup for every 50 pounds. It coats each grain and kills any weevil or beetle larvae that try to feed on it with zero chemical contamination of the food itself. DE formulations are registered for direct application on grain in many parts of the world. Farmers have quietly used this method for decades, but most people have no idea of one honest limitation that belongs here. Moisture dramatically reduces its effectiveness. In dry indoor spaces, it can keep working for months, while outdoor applications may require reapplication after rain or heavy dew. Once the powder gets wet, the particles clump together and lose their ability to penetrate an exoskeleton. Outdoors, especially in humid climates, you'll need to reapply it after rain. But indoors, in dry conditions, inside walls, under floors, and dry baseboards, it can keep working for years with almost no maintenance.
There's one more thing people should know, though. DE does not kill insect eggs. It only kills insects that actually crawl through the powder. So, with fast-breeding pests, the goal is consistency. You keep the treatment in place long enough for newly hatched insects to walk through it too. One final safety note. Food-grade DE is considered low toxicity for humans and pets. If you inhale fine particles in large amounts, can potentially cause lung irritation. So, when you are applying for large quantities in enclosed spaces, wear a simple dust mask. Outside or in normal ventilated spaces, it's generally not a major concern. Studies cited by Oregon State University's National Pesticide Information Center found no reproductive, developmental, or carcinogenic effects in animal studies at high doses. The dust mask is a comfort measure, not an emergency protocol. Here's the part that stays with me. 30 million years of diatoms dying at the bottom of prehistoric lakes. Their glass shells accumulate, compressed into rock, mined, ground into powder, and every insect that walks across a thin layer of it dies the same way insects have been dying since before humans discovered fire. The first pesticide products containing diatomaceous earth were registered by the EPA in 1960. That's 60 years of regulatory documentation confirming it works, confirming it's safe, confirming it's suitable for use around food, children, and pets. 60 years, and the pest control salesman who knocked on your door last month quoted you $800 for a year of chemical treatments. If this gave you something useful today, share it with someone who's been on that chemical subscription for years. They deserve to know there's a $4 alternative that's been sitting on a shelf the whole time. Knowledge like this doesn't disappear on its own. It gets buried. This channel digs it back up. Subscribe if that matters to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.